Welcome back to Nick Talk Sports. We're going to be talking about week 3 of the NFL season and going over every single game to recap it. Let's start with Thursday Night Football. You got the Bills versus the Dolphins, and it was a great game. It was really close. For the Bills, I think this is a lot more about James Cook in that rushing attack than it was about Josh Allen in the passing attack. James Cook goes 19 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown. Very efficient. Josh Allen had a great game himself, though. Over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, which is a big deal for them. And he just keeps up that streak, really. But pleasantly surprised by the Dolphins, to learn that they're not dead. Yet. I do think that they will be dead soon. I think that they'll give up soon and they'll have to turn a new leaf soon. But so far, they're definitely still battling after that really terrible week 1 performance against the Colts. They showed up in this game. It was very close to the end. They made it a very good Thursday Night Football game, which I didn't think it would be. So kudos to them. That being said, Tua throws a back-breaking interception at the end. Look, I think he was trying to look off a safety, and obviously he didn't see the middle linebacker coming through, and the linebacker ends up taking the pick. That being said, at that point in the game, I'm thinking, okay, they have a chance to go tie this near the end of the 4th. Surely Tua throws a pick here, right? He throws a pick here, right? And he throws a pick right on cue. I think everyone kind of knew that would happen. No one really thought that the Dolphins had a chance. But Tua does, he goes for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns in that 1 pick. So it's not like he had an incredible game himself. The rushing attack was pretty good. You saw some glimpses from Ollie Gordon, and he'll definitely be competing for more carries as they move forward as well. Even though Devon Achane is a very good back, Ollie Gordon's just bigger and stronger. So it's a good change of pace for them. It could be a very good rushing attack moving forward. But that's really the Thursday Night Football game. No one really thought that the Dolphins would have a chance, but it was pleasant to see that it was a close game. Typically on Thursday nights, you expect it to just be a bad game. But hey, good job. Good job, Dolphins. You made it a close game. Thank you for giving me an enjoyable Thursday night watch. Now we move into the Sunday games, and we start with the Vikings versus the Bengals. And oh boy, was that not a good game at all. You have 2 backups, so no one really cares about that game that much anyways. But I guess the story is Carson Wentz coming back as a starter. That being said, he didn't do much. You go and look at the box score, and he was not that involved. He goes 14 of 20, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, in a game that was 48-10. But they were up so much early, they really just say, Kevin O'Connell says, Carson Wentz, don't screw the game over. Don't have any bad turnovers. Carson says, got it, coach. No turnovers here. It wasn't a bad game from him, but also it's not something where you say, hey, is Carson Wentz back? Is this a potential Geno Smith story, or is it a Sam Darnold story? It's not. It's not. Don't rely on that. It's not going to be that way. The Bengals, everyone's hyping up Jake Browning all week, saying, hey, he is more than a capable starter in this league. He is the best backup in the league by far. I could not tell. Given the Vikings defense is very good, and that was really the story of the game, is that defense. There's one guy that had just insane stats. You go look at his stats from the game. I think he had like a couple touchdowns, forced multiple turnovers. He was all over the place, wreaking havoc on the Bengals. And Jake Browning just looked lost all game. And I think a big story, too, is the Vikings defensive front played very, very well, getting pressure all game. Even if Joe Burrow was in, he would have still had trouble. But that being said, this was not a game that I expected to be as lopsided as it was. Minnesota was coming off of a really tough loss the week before to the Falcons, who then laid an egg themselves. But we'll get to that later. The Bengals, though, coming off of a very good win against the Jaguars, even after Burrow goes out, this is just not, I don't think, what anyone expected. That being said, it's a game of 2 backups playing. I don't really care that much. We'll see how the Vikings look here as they get their starter back here, J.J. McCarthy. When he comes back in, then I'll be more interested to see how this Vikings team really is. But the story is definitely the defense. The defense was very, very good, and that's to be expected. Next game, we got the Steelers and the Patriots, and my goodness, was this a bad game to watch. The Steelers had 200 yards of offense, basically. They just like 202, 203 maybe. It was a bad offensive game from them. And the Patriots, they had closer to 400 yards of offense. That being said, it was just terrible to watch because the Patriots were losing the ball left and right. Someone was putting butter on that ball all game because they were dropping it like crazy. 4 fumbles. 4 fumbles. Someone tell me how you have 4 fumbles in one game. Drake May obviously has a bad pick. It continues to be an issue for Ramondre Stevenson, the fumbles. And I think what I'm hearing is that Patriots fans are getting very, very frustrated very, very quickly, especially when you have that rookie running back that's ready to come in. And he's an explosive guy. He could come in and definitely be a better back for them, I think. That being said, we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll split the carries up a little bit more, but you got to be concerned if you're a Patriots fan and you see Ramondre Stevenson run out into the field, because he had 2 fumbles, given there were 4 fumbles. So he only accounted for half of them, and he only accounted for 40% of all turnovers because he had the pick as well. This story was much more about the Patriots shooting themselves in the foot than it was about the Steelers looking anywhere near competent. And again, you give credit to the defense of the Steelers for bouncing back after the first couple of weeks, looking a little bit better, forcing 5 turnovers. Also, I don't know if that's something that I'm going to count on in the future as they move forward. They have had a lot of turnovers in the past 4 years. They lead the NFL in turnover margin in the last 4 years, and by, I think, a pretty good margin too. That being said, I don't necessarily anticipate that to continue. I do think that this was more about the Patriots offense turning the ball over and giving it to the Steelers, and it was about the Steelers just being so good. Very opportunistic defense, though, this week. Steelers come away with the win. Ultimately, I think if you're a Steelers fan, you're not impressed. You're not looking forward to the rest of the season. You don't think that you have a realistic chance to actually win the AFC North. Baltimore should come back and be just fine after their loss. We'll talk about that later, though. I don't know, though. I don't know what to think of either of these teams. I did have the Patriots come in as a wild card spot this year. I don't know how good I feel about that, but they were moving the ball. If you're a Patriots fan, you move the ball really well. That's something you can hang your hat on. Moving the ball is always a plus in this league. You just cut down the turnovers, which I do expect in a Mike Vrabel-led team moving forward, is that the turnovers will cut down. I do think that if someone continues to have turnovers, Ramondre Stevenson, then he'll make sure that he gets them out of the game and get guys in that are not going to be turning the ball over. Next game we got is the Colts versus the Titans, and this game was not close. And I don't think anyone expected it to be that close. The Titans are definitely among the worst teams in the league. Callahan seems to be way in over his head. A lot of people are calling for him to be fired. And it's not just the game prep that's bad. It's the game management, clock management during the game, that he just seems to be totally lost every game. And so that's a problem if you're the Titans. You're definitely not expecting a lot. The rest of the season, you're just hoping that Cam Ward can continue to show flashes. And look, he didn't have a bad game. 200 yards, a touchdown and a pick. It's fine. He's a rookie. He's still getting his feet wet. He's trying to get things going. And I think that he'll continue to get better as the season goes along. And hopefully in the offseason, they just do an entire overhaul of that entire team and the coaching staff. And then he can start fresh next year with better weapons and maybe a better offensive-minded coach. That being said, the Colts kind of steamroll this one. And I think, too, for the Colts, as well as Indiana Jones is playing, which, again, that's his name. It's not Daniel Jones anymore. It's Indiana Jones. Clearly still playing well. The coaching staff made the right decision for this year to have him being the starting quarterback. That being said, this was a lot more about the defense and Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor was a monster all game, breaking tackles left and right, hitting huge runs, showing what he is as a running back, and reminding people of why he is one of the best running backs in the league. And then Indiana Jones did a good job managing the game the rest of the way. 200 yards. He had a touchdown, no interceptions, which is a fine game. And he knew what the game was from the get-go. He knew that their rushing attack just had it that day, kind of like Josh Allen did. And he just did what he needed to do. Given he is not Josh Allen, I need everyone to know that he's not Josh Allen. And I heard a lot of people saying this is the week that the Colts come back down to earth. A lot of people were really expecting it. They're playing the Titans. Maybe they come back down to earth next week. But at the same time, I think that they're showing consistent ball here. I don't think that they're going to blow everyone out every week, and their offense will probably struggle at some point this season, but they don't have a crazy difficult schedule. I think that they're in prime position to win the AFC South this year. And I know that the Jaguars are playing decent football, but I just don't think that the Texans have it. And so I think that the Colts have a good shot here, and they could surprise people in the playoffs. That being said, this was another good, solid game from them. Up next, Jaguars-Texans, and that game was not very good. That was not a fun game to watch. This was definitely low scoring, all defensive, your grandpa's favorite game. I did not enjoy it though. I did not like watching it. I hate it when offenses can't play well at all. You can respect a good defense, and the Texans do have a really good defense. The Jaguars have a pretty good defense, I think. They're fine, but they are not that good to where the Texans should only score 10 points. This Texans offense is continuing to concern me. CJ Stroud is continuing to concern me. I think once they get Tank Dell back, which I'm not entirely sure when he's coming back, maybe later this season, I think that maybe that offense could look better, but it is concerning seeing CJ Stroud look the way he does. I think it's definitely about that offensive line. That offensive line is terrible. And who to guess when you already have a bad offensive line, getting rid of your best offensive lineman in the offseason ends up not being a great move. Oh my gosh, that's the craziest thing. It's earth shattering. No one could see that coming at all. No one at all. But here we are. They lose 17-10. I think you're going to continue to see more games like this if you're the Texans, losing games that are low scoring. But if there's anything to be optimistic about, it is that defense. That defense is the real deal. They are very good. What you need in this offseason, which sucks to already be talking about the offseason, but you are 0-3, and I don't see a ton of signs of life from that offense. Who knows? Maybe you can come back in the AFC South. It'll be hard when Indianapolis is looking as good as they're looking. And Jacksonville is definitely looking better this year than they were last year. I think they'll continue to get better in Liam Cohen's offense, and I think Trevor Lawrence will continue to look better in Liam Cohen's offense. But that being said, an ugly game all around, not a game that anyone would be excited to watch. Next, Falcons-Panthers, and my gosh, has anyone checked on the Falcons? Do they need CPR? What's going on? Because there are no signs of life there in that organization this week. They just had a huge win over the Vikings, and then they come out completely flat against the Panthers. Given the Panthers, they're not... Okay, I said in a video earlier this week that they're like one of the worst teams in the NFL. Maybe they're not one of the worst teams in the NFL. I had hope in them last season. They went on that run at the end of the year, but they started this season kind of flat, and I was losing hope. That being said, they looked great this week, and it wasn't even about the offense. If you want to say Bryce Young played great, that's fine. He had 121 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. The rushing attack wasn't even really that great. It was all about that defense. That defense was too much for the Falcons. It looked like Penix got off to a bad start, and he just could not recover from it for whatever reason. He just could never get things going. That offense really stumbled. Bijan Robinson goes 13 carries for 72 yards. So it's not like he had a bad game. Give him the ball more, maybe, rather than allowing Penix to throw for 36 attempts. That being said, though, you're playing catch up from the get-go. You're trying to get into this game. So it's going to be pass heavy after that. So I get it. It was just a bad game, though. 30-0 is crazy. I do not understand where this game came from. I can understand the Panthers putting up a fight, being able to win this game. It is a divisional game, so you never really know. But I am just floored by what the Falcons said. And maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe this is what Falcons fans should say you should expect from them after a big win, is just to come out completely flat and to disappoint you. Maybe that is the Falcons' MO. I had someone bring up in comments earlier that they haven't looked the same since they blew the 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl, which I think most everyone except for Patriots and Brady fans are mad at them still for, because blowing that lead was terrible. You gave the Patriots another Super Bowl win. That being said, coming back to this game, 30-0, just terrible. Really rough game for the Falcons. We'll see if they can bounce back this next week. But my gosh, hope is not running high for the Falcons fans right now. On to possibly the game of the week. You got Rams-Eagles. The Eagles take it away 33-26, but that was not the story of the game. That is not how the game looked for most of it. The Rams early in the third quarter went up 26-7. The Eagles looked dead in the water. This reminded me of a couple years ago where the Eagles had rattled off a lot of wins, but they didn't look very good, and then they end up becoming terrible the rest of the season and then get blown out by the Bucs in the playoffs. That being said, the Eagles did a great job turning it around. They were terrible in the first half. They go down 26-7 early in the third, and then that offense comes alive. They remember, oh yeah, we have Jalen Hurts, we have A.J. Brown, we have Devonta Smith. We don't have to try to run up the middle with Saquon Barkley every single play if it's not working. The Rams defensive front was too good that game. And so you say, yeah, oh, wait a second. We have possibly the best wide receiver duo in the league, or at least certainly one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. And we have a quarterback that can definitely rip it when we allow him to. And so they say, hey, F it, let's let him throw it. And so he throws it. And Jalen Hurts, believe it or not, looked really great, as he often does when they let him throw the ball. And so he ends up throwing it for 226 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Doesn't look great, but Remember, they had like 0 passing yards in the first half. So they were really uncorking the ball down the field in the second half, playing much better football. This is what everyone wants to see. If you're an Eagles fan, you can finally take a deep breath because they were able to show signs of life on that offense when you didn't think they'd be able to. The question is, why have they not been doing that sooner? Why have they not been allowing Jalen Hurts to throw the ball when he clearly can throw the ball? That's got to be really frustrating if you're an Eagles fan. Also, though, story of this game, not necessarily how good they looked, but how much the Rams threw this game away. Obviously, it seemed like once they went up 26-7, they were just trying not to turn the ball over, trying to play passive football. But again, we always say, if you're playing not to lose, you're actually not playing to win. And so that rings true. That being said, Matt Stafford did put them in position for a game-sealing field goal twice in the fourth quarter. Both of them get blocked. The second one returned for a touchdown. That's why you get 33-26. If you're someone that bet on the Rams plus 3 or plus 3.5, I am very sorry that they were not able to hold on to that, because even if the Eagles had just gone down with the ball after that last field goal block, then it's 27-26. Even though they lose, you get the payout there in that bet. So it's really disappointing, a really bad beat that they return that and then you end up losing by 7 there. So I'm sorry if you bet on that game for the Rams. That really sucks. That being said, they definitely threw the game away. Having those 2 blocked field goals in a day that was just filled with blocked field goals was absolutely wild. So the Eagles do get a little bit lucky to come away with it. That being said, it is encouraging to see that passing offense come to life and for them to remember just how good those weapons are and just how good Jalen Hurts can be. Maybe you take that forward after this week and decide, yeah, we can pass the ball and we don't just have to run it all the time. We don't need to rely on a defense whose secondary isn't very good, and we can just pass the ball. Pass the ball. Next game is Jets-Bucks, and this game ended up being way more exciting than I thought it would be. The Bucks controlled the game most of the time. The Jets were without Justin Fields again. They had Tyrod Taylor in there, and you kind of know what Tyrod Taylor is at this point. He's a game manager for sure. That being said, he ends up going 197, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, a fine game, but he leads a comeback for them. They end up taking the lead off of a blocked field goal, another blocked field goal in the early window of Sunday's games, and they go up 27-26. Baker Mayfield, too clutch though, again, comes back down the field to get them into field goal position. They do make it, although I thought it might be blocked again because it was a low kick. That being said, Baker Mayfield goes for 233 yards, 1 touchdown, no pick. A fine day by any means. The Bucks win it. I don't think anyone questioned that the Bucks would win this game. It was definitely more exciting than I think anyone thought it would be. The Jets just aren't very good, especially without Justin Fields, given Justin Fields was bad before he went out with a concussion. If he can come back this next week, we'll see how he looks. I don't know. It's definitely confusing if you're a Jets fan. You don't know what to think of your team at this point right now. And I'm going to just kind of push them over here because I don't really care. Let's just leave the Jets over here, give them the rest of the year to kind of figure out their identity and who they are under Aaron Glenn. He needs a season or two to really start to move things in the right direction. That is how it was with Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, his first season with the Lions was really bad. And then they kind of turned things around after that. They were calling out Jared Goff a lot. Jared Goff has looked great ever since. Baker Mayfield, though, continues to prove that he's one of the more clutch quarterbacks in the league. He definitely has firm control and grasp over that offense. Mika Ibuka, he was a little bit injured, but my gosh, does he look good. On that last drive, he was everything for them and for Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield trusts that guy a lot, and for good reason. He's an incredible wide receiver, and he'll just continue to grow and become better and better throughout the season, as long as he can get past this injury and be fully healthy. Next up, we got Raiders-Commanders, and this was a game that went the complete opposite of how I thought it would. I thought that if it was going to be a blowout in any way, that the Raiders would blow out the Commanders. The Commanders were without Jaden Daniels. They're starting Marcus Mariota, who's definitely a veteran, and you thought, okay, he can be serviceable, but he was pretty good. 207 yards, 1 touchdown, no pick. But the real story here was how bad that Raiders offense looked. Geno Smith, I thought, would be completely tearing apart the Commanders' defense throughout the day. I thought that their run game would look really good. It all didn't look very good at all. Everything looked really hard for them. And this was very surprising for me. And so I don't know what to expect from the Raiders moving forward. My expectations are definitely lowering. I thought that they would have a chance at the beginning of the season here to be competing for a wild card spot because you have Pete Carroll, you have Geno Smith, you got Ashton Genty, you got Brock Bowers, and Max Crosby. I just thought that this team would look better than it does. It does look really bad right now. Their first week against the Patriots, they did look good. But that being said, I don't know what to think of them moving forward. I need to see how things shake out the rest of the season. But for now, expectations are gone. I thought that the Commanders would take a big step back this season, but if they can continue to weather the storm without Jaden Daniels and then look better and better with him in that offense under Cliff Kingsbury, then good for them. Maybe they'll be able to make another run in the playoffs again. Then we get the Bears versus the Cowboys, and there were two primary stories to this game. The first one, CeeDee Lamb going out and the Cowboys offense being terrible after that. They cannot move the ball without CeeDee Lamb. He definitely draws a lot of defenders and can be successful despite doing so, but he clears up the field for the rest of the players. When he's not there, there's nothing that anyone else can do. Dak just does not have enough help without CeeDee Lamb on the field. And then the other story is that defense is stinky poo-poo. That defense is very, very bad. They have no shot. That defense has no shot. Again, we knew this from the get-go that without Micah Parsons, you're going to have to win shootouts if you're the Cowboys. But if you don't have CeeDee Lamb, and I know he may only be gone like a couple of weeks, that being said, the injury that he has is one that can definitely nag on him throughout the rest of the season, and that could be him missing time here and there or just not really looking like himself. But even an injured CeeDee Lamb in the game is better than no CeeDee Lamb at all. So if you're the Cowboys, you really don't have a ton of hope for the rest of the season. You're 1-2. One of your best players is injured. You don't have your previous best player in Micah Parsons. And who would have guessed Jerry Jones? Wrong about how important Micah Parsons is. But hey, at least he got his day to be able to hold up his own authority over the team. That whatever doesn't mean much. Cowboys not very good. The Bears, however, very encouraging. I know you're going up against a very bad Cowboys defense, but Caleb Williams finally looked good. And so you can take that and say, hey, moving in the right direction. Ben Johnson is figuring some things out with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is figuring some stuff out because Caleb Williams had looked not very good even against not great defenses. So this is a good sign. Even against a bad defense, the Bears maybe can build off this, build a little bit of momentum. You have some games coming around that I think are definitely winnable. Heading into a bye, then you get a rematch into the game with the Washington Commanders. If you can beat the Commanders, then who knows where this season's headed. Ultimately, I don't have high expectations this season. You're just looking to see, can Caleb Williams make some strides, make some growth here that can give us some promise for next year? And this game did it. This game is exactly what you're wanting to see if you're a Bears fan. Next is Chargers-Broncos. This was a very good game. It was very close, 23-20. I thought Justin Herbert played very well, goes for 300 yards again. He had the one pick, but that was fine. Ultimately, a good game from him. The Chargers going to run in the fourth in order to take the game away from the Broncos. I think Bo Nix continues to struggle, but I don't want to minimize how good that Chargers defense is. The Chargers defense is very, very good, and it'll continue to get better throughout the season, I think. And the offense is definitely clicking. I think Bo Nix, people were a little bit too high on him coming into this year, especially we saw CJ Stroud have an amazing rookie season, and then he had a sophomore slump. Bo Nix had a solid rookie season, not an amazing one, solid one. And so we expect him to drop a little bit this season as he continues to learn. Defenses are adjusting to the way he plays. It's just a learning curve. He'll get the hang of it a little bit more. I do believe that. And they'll continue to use him while rolling out, get him on the move for those passes. But that being said, right now, this Broncos offense just isn't good enough. And I think that they'll be able to win a good amount of games. But right now, my prediction is that they probably miss the playoffs. And I think a lot of people would probably agree with that at this point. Ultimately, though, a good game. It's still positive for the Chargers. They start out 3-0 all against divisional opponents. So the Chiefs have definitely a hole to dig themselves out of in order to overtake the AFC West again. The Chargers are just on a roll, and I don't see them slowing down necessarily anytime soon. Then you have the Seahawks versus the Saints. And if you look at the box score, 44-13, you'd think, wow, that offense for the Seahawks did really well. Let me tell you, they did not have to do anything. This game was exactly how you'd expect a lot of Saints games to go this year. A complete blowout, never close. but the Seahawks defense and special teams led the way the whole time. Sam Darnold did just fine, but he did what they needed him to do, and that's great. They should expect that of him all season and want that from him all season, because under Mike Macdonald, this defense is going to continue to get better and better and better. And if the special teams can keep playing that way and having good, solid returns, then I think that this team has a really good shot of being in the playoff mix and a potential to upset some people. For the Saints, you gotta hope that you can gut through this year and maybe next year and then start to see things turn around. I think it's pretty obvious that Spencer Rattler is not the answer. He's not going to be a quarterback that can get you any great long-term success. So you're looking at the draft again. You're probably going to be in position for the first overall pick this year. You might be in position for the first overall pick next year too. So you got to figure out what you want to do. If you just want to trade out of it this year and get some extra draft capital, and then next year go after a quarterback that you really want, then that might be, especially you think about that kid out of South Carolina next year, that could be a really good pickup for you in the draft next year. But unfortunately, that's where you're at right now, Saints, is you're looking at the future. You are not at all thinking about right now. But I think you're probably pretty well aware of that if you're a Saints fan. It sucks that you couldn't compete in this game at all, really, and things just didn't go your way in any phase of the game. But in the future, I mean, next week and moving forward, you'll probably have some closer games. But right now, you are hoping for more games like this where you get blown out and just can continue to move on. Next up, we got the Packers-Browns, and this was the most baffling game of the week. This was one that I for sure did not anticipate. I know that the Browns have potential to do this. They have a very good defense, but for the Packers to be up 10-0 in the fourth and then just to allow a 13-0 run and a blocked field goal at the end is just bananas to me. This obviously was not Jordan Love's day. Jordan Love is very much a roller coaster, and we've seen that throughout his career. This was definitely part of the downturn of his roller coaster. We'll see if he can bounce back next week, but he goes 183 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That being said, the Browns defense is nothing to underestimate by any means. They have a very, very good defense. And so we can expect their defense to keep it up throughout the rest of the season. That offense didn't look that great given the Green Bay's defense is very good. And so if you're a Packers fan, what you can take comfort in is knowing that that defense is going to show up every week. That defense is very, very good. All you need is Jordan Love to hold up his end of the bargain. I don't anticipate a game like this from them moving forward. I do think that people's expectations were getting very, very high of them this season. People were talking about them going undefeated, and it's just so hard to go undefeated in the NFL. So I think that this was a wake-up call for them. They were buying into the hype a little bit too much. They get back on track this week after this game, and you'll see them start to return to more dominant football after this game. That doesn't mean that they'll win out the rest of the season, but I do think that they'll be in good position to compete for the 1 seed in the NFC. So we'll see where it goes from here. The Lions are looking much better, but don't panic if you're Green Bay. This is just one game. Any given Sunday, this kind of thing can happen. And if you're a Browns fan, don't get too much hope from this because that offense did continue to look bad. You can take hope in that defense, though. We'll see where things kind of head moving forward. I do think people are going to be calling for Shedeur Sanders more and more as they move forward. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is the answer or is good enough to be a great starting quarterback right now. I think that Dylan Gabriel is probably more NFL ready. So we'll see kind of where that heads the rest of the season. That being said, it's one game. Take a deep breath, Packers fans. After that, you get Cardinals versus the 49ers. And this game wasn't very good either. This was not a fun game to watch. Mac Jones is playing well enough. He's proven that maybe he could get another shot eventually at being a starting quarterback. I don't know if I trust that, though. I don't think that he'll have long-term success. I think this is a lot more about Kyle Shanahan and the way he runs that offense. Having Christian McCaffrey certainly helps. I think that they'll be excited to get back their players. The Niners are clearly weathering the storm without a lot of key pieces. And so if they can get healthier again, losing Nick Bosa for the year is devastating. You never like to see that. But being able to get healthier around the board should be helpful for them in order to at least be competing for a wild card spot, if not for the NFC the NFC West altogether, given they are at the top of the NFC West right now. But we'll see what happens as things move forward. This game was not good. This does say a lot about the Cardinals and where they're at. Last year, the Cardinals had kind of a hot start, and Kyler Murray was feeling himself, and they fell back down to earth. This year, they're just starting kind of average and mid. They aren't looking that good at all. I'm not expecting a ton from them moving forward. I think that they definitely need to move on from Kyler Murray at a certain point when they're able to. He's just not the answer at quarterback. He has not proven to be able to sustain any kind of success or any kind of momentum. He is very inconsistent, kind of all over the place. And to lose this game to the Niners without their starting quarterback, without a lot of key pieces, is actually a really bad sign if you're the Cardinals. So I don't know what to think of them right now, other than they're just not very good. If you're a Cardinals fan, definitely let me know in the comments if you disagree with that. But right now, I'm thinking better of the Niners and their ability to at least make the playoffs this year and make some noise. But I don't know what the heck is going on with the Niners and the ability to stay healthy. They just cannot stay healthy for whatever reason. I don't know what you guys did to piss some people off, but clearly you made people really mad that have decided that you're going to be injured for the rest of eternity and you're just stuck in injury purgatory. So hopefully you can get healthier. But again, I don't know if I can count on that if you're a Niners fan, but best of luck. And then on Sunday Night Football, you had the Chiefs versus the Giants. I don't know why this was the Sunday Night Football game, but whatever. It was an interesting game to say the least. The first half did not look very good, tied 6-6. The Harrison Butker is a problem for the Chiefs right now. He's usually very reliable, but has not been very good at kicking field goals this year. Very unreliable so far. So that could be definitely a problem in very big matchups for them down the road. The offense was bad in the first half. You have Pacheco running the wrong way, doing the wrong thing on multiple plays. But the biggest, most glaring example of that was when Mahomes threw a pass he probably shouldn't have thrown to him that went backwards. It got fumbled, got picked up, and Mahomes had to go make a pretty crazy play to recover that ball and take it from the defender, which it was a really good play by him. But everything before that was terrible. And so they looked really bad going into the half. Coming out in the second half, they looked much better. The offense looked better. The running game is still a very big issue for Kansas City, and I don't see it getting any better. Pacheco's not very good, and Kareem Hunt is older and he's okay. He can get you some short yardage situations, but that's about all he can really do. That's not much to rely on. So I don't know what to think about the Chiefs. Xavier Worthy might be coming back this week, and it couldn't come anytime sooner. You need Xavier Worthy in there. That offense is going to struggle. I know Thornton has been a revelation for this team. He's been playing really well. You throw Xavier Worthy in there, maybe this offense looks good against the Ravens next week. The Ravens, given their big issue on defense is a run game, and the Chiefs have no run game. So I don't know what's going to happen and what to expect of that game, but it probably should be good and should be close. The Giants look terrible though, and this is what everyone should have expected. Was Russell Wilson has a huge week one week, and then you expect him to come back down to earth. And boy, did he come back down to earth. He did not look good that game. He was really bad. He was forcing the issue in a lot of ways because you could tell he was frustrated. And the Chiefs took away Malik Neighbors, but that is also a really big problem on the coaching is why did Brian Daboll not drop stuff that would get some quick, easy completions to Malik Neighbors? I do not believe that was impossible for them to do. They needed to get some layups in there for Malik Neighbors to have him grow in confidence, for Russell Wilson to grow in confidence, and they just didn't do it. And then the packages with Jackson Dart aren't very good. I don't really like those. And then to use Russell Wilson for the packages that you would normally have Jackson Dart in for is also odd to me because Russell Wilson can't do that anymore. He's not that kind of quarterback. You need to allow him to sit in the pocket and make some passes and just give him some layups. My goodness, dude. But their offense was terrible, obviously. They come back down to earth. We'll see if they can kind of get better moving forward. They're going to be starting Jackson Dart. Probably the right decision. I don't know. I mean, you don't want to throw him into the wolves. And obviously the reason they're doing it is because the coach and GM are afraid of being fired. So that's not a great reason to do it. At the same time, I would like to see Jameis Winston. And that's just because I'm selfish. And I love the 30 and 30. I want to see 30 touchdowns, 30 picks. I want to not know, am I going to get a really awesome play or just the worst play I've ever seen in my life? That is what I want. That's what I want to see. So give me more Jameis Winston, baby. Bring him back in. But if they're not going to do that, they're going with Jackson Dart, which does bring me to the next question. Why did you get Jameis Winston? Why did you bring him in at all? If your thoughts were going to be either Russell Wilson or Jackson Dart, there's no purpose to bring Jameis Winston in the first place. But I would love to see him. I think it would be way more fun. Think about Jameis Winston and Malik Neighbors. There would be a lot of incredible plays there, and then obviously some really bad plays. And that would be fun for any football fan who's not a Giants fan. Sorry, Giants fans. But we'll see what they do with Jackson Dart if he can look pretty good. They seem pretty high on him. Kansas City, their offense should continue to get better. I think people who wrote them off after an 0-2 start were mistaken, and you'll see that they can turn things around, and they'll definitely be in the playoffs this year. And last but not least, we move into the Monday night football game. It was Detroit versus Baltimore, and Detroit comes away with a win in a very exciting game. It ends 38-30, but Detroit was up 38-24 because John Harbaugh made a stupid decision to punt the ball on a fourth down near midfield with 4 minutes left. That was a decision that is unforgivable, inexcusable. You can never do that. You need to be more confident than that in Lamar Jackson to go make that play. If he doesn't make that play, he doesn't make that play. You've got to put it in your star quarterback's hand. That was a terrible decision. That being said, a fun game all the way around. This game, however, was not about Jared Goff and the passing. It was about the rushing game for the Lions. They rushed for about 225 yards, which was really, really impressive. A very solid game from them. And then on the other side for the Ravens, Derrick Henry had a bad game again, and he just couldn't get much going. And then obviously he has the fumble again. I don't understand how the biggest, strongest running back in the league is struggling with keeping the ball safe and ball security. He should be able to hold that ball tighter than he is, but it is getting punched out more often than I would like to see and more often than Ravens fans would like to see. And then Lamar had to do everything again. In the second half, that's what you saw from him, is he had to just take over. He had to do everything for this team. He couldn't really scramble. There were 7 sacks by the Detroit defense. They obviously played really well up front and controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides. It was just a bad game for everyone but Lamar. He had to be Superman again. This is what you're not wanting to see from the Ravens, is that Lamar has to do everything. That's why you have a guy like Derrick Henry. But if he's struggling, what are you supposed to do? That does leave an intriguing matchup heading into week 4, where they'll be playing the Chiefs. Both teams are 1-2. It's in Kansas City. If the Chiefs win, all of a sudden the Chiefs have righted the ship. They're looking a little bit better. And if Baltimore loses, that's going to be a bad sign for them. They'll be 1-3. They'll probably still win the division. I don't think the division's very good. And Joe Burrow's out for like 3 months at least. And if anyone's hoping in the Browns, they are mistaken. The Browns are not going to take that division. And the Steelers are not taking that division either. The Steelers are also not very good. They're going to be 9-8, 10-7. And Baltimore still, I think, finishes at least 12-5. But this was honestly a huge win for the Bills, because the Bills are 3-0. That means they're 2 games ahead of the Ravens with the tiebreaker. So really 3 games ahead of the Ravens. So this is a good sign for the Bills. The Ravens, it's a tough loss, obviously. I do think you bounce back from it. You'll figure things out. You got to figure things out with Derrick Henry, get him going again, get him feeling better in that offense, and getting Lamar some help there, because he cannot continue to do this. And obviously this game, going to be an unfair indictment on Lamar Jackson. People are going to say, see, he can't get it done, can't win these big close games. And it just wasn't his fault. His running back fumbles it in the fourth quarter, and his coach makes a bad decision and doesn't trust him to go for it for whatever reason on fourth down with 4 minutes left, when you're going up against a Lions team who's been running up and down the field all over you, and you're down 7 points. So they would have had a chance to win if either of those things are different. That doesn't mean they would have won, because they were down 7 points to the Lions. But ultimately, good for the Lions. They look great. I think this puts them in position to continue to fight for the NFC North. It'll be hard against Green Bay. I think Green Bay will bounce back. But the Lions have proven that they're not dead. Dan Campbell is a really good coach, and that this wasn't all about the coordinators doing everything for him. This team is a very, very good football team. These are my takeaways from this week. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, hear what you have to say about all of these games, how you're feeling about your teams, where you think they're headed, anything that you'd like to see differently from me in a different video heading forward, especially with these weekly reviews and breakdowns. I'm very excited heading into week 4. We're going to start to see things shape out a little bit more, but a lot of these games are very chaotic. I don't expect to see a bunch of blocked kicks moving forward. That was one of the craziest, 20 minutes of my life that I've ever had football related. So we'll see what comes with week 4. I will be doing a week 4 preview here in a couple days, and I'll be excited to get that out as well.